What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you stopping by. Today I'm going to be installing some ceramic bearings on my Ninja H2 back here. So why do people install ceramic bearings? Well, I guess the basic idea is that when you install ceramic bearings, you reduce friction and you reduce the vibration and rotational mass. And I guess the idea is that all of those maybe increase the horsepower that gets to the wheel, even maybe just a little bit. I'm not so concerned about horsepower gains. It was on my list of things to do, and I got a kick-ass deal on those, on these ceramic bearings. So I said, why not? I already installed the front bearings a couple weeks ago, but I had to wait to do the rear because I needed a center stand to be able to lift the rear wheel off the ground. And as you can see, I've got the wheel off, I've got the chain loosened up, I'm starting to disconnect the brake components, but then I get to the axle nut. Reading through the manual, it's torqued down to about 184 foot-pounds. That's what the manual says. So I tried it with the biggest breaker bars I had, I got nothing. I tried it with my Ryobi impact wrench, I got nothing. So this morning I got up, I went to Harbor Freight and I purchased an air compressor. This will be the third time in like 12 months that I've had to use one. And normally I just go to, Home Depot and I rent one, but like screw it, let's just buy one. So now I've got an air compressor. Now that I've got all the tools I need, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and hopefully I can finish this before the end of the day. I think based on what I know about this project, it's gonna be a good 3 beer job. Yeah. Probably just three or four, just because. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, this came out. Here, move the camera to this side. So now this is starting to separate. Coupling, which is this part, is starting to separate from everything else. Oh, nice. All right, now that the coupling side is off, I gotta get this rotor off. And I discovered that if I just shimmy it just a little bit, it starts to come out. Yay. So now it is off. And we can just leave this part alone because that's gonna go back in just the way that it is. Now, in order to get the bearing housing out, I got to remove this this clip here, and then it should push itself out. All right, so we got to remove this snap ring here. I've got my snap ring pliers. Getting this off should be pretty easy. There it goes. Yeah. So now that the snap ring is off, this caliper mount should come right off, and then this should slide out. Hooray! Yep, there it does. Oh, one thing I want to look at is how this is supposed to go back in, just to make sure there's no markings or anything. It doesn't look like there is, but I'm going to make sure that this is on the bottom and there's a line up here. I want to make sure that's on the top as well. It's out. All right, let's go to the workbench. All right, now that everything is off, I'm gonna go ahead and work on this housing first. The bearing we need to get out is on this side. The bearing on this side doesn't have a replacement, so we're not gonna mess with that one. We're just doing this one side. So what I gotta do is get this seal out, and then there's another snap ring, and then the spindle should pop out, and we should be able to tap out the bearing from this side. Side is that other snap ring I was telling you about. Comes out like so. Yay! Make sure you replace these. All right, I really don't want to do this, but I need to remove this side as well. And there's a chance I could screw up this O-ring or this seal. I don't want to screw it up because it'll be at least a week before I can get a new one. Okay, it's out. Holy shit, it's out. All right, so I'm gonna get some blocks of wood here, like a little cradle. Only because we want to be able to drive that out. A lot of people use some heat I found that it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll just give this a shot. See what happens. If we need it, I've got an acetylene torch that I can use. You know what? I'll just break out the computer. Stop fucking around with this thing. Let's see if it's moving. Oh yeah, it's moving. It's taking a bit, but it's coming out. Oh, one more should do it. One more. And there it goes. It's out. Hooray. And there is the old bearing. Oh man, it smells terrible. All right. Cool, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up the inside, grease it up just a little bit, make sure there's nothing shitty going on in there, and then we'll drive the new bearing in. All right, so the inside of it is clean. I don't see any imperfections or anything that's gonna stop me from completing this. So you got your new bearing. You don't have to pack these, they're already pre-greased, but you do need to put a little bit on the outside and a little bit on the inside of the housing. It just helps slide things along. Some people put them in the freezer. I did that for the front. Since I started this last night, these bearings have been sitting out, so they're not frozen anymore. But it just makes the metal contract a little bit, and it makes driving them in a little bit easier. But I don't think I'm gonna have any issues. I don't think this is gonna give me any problems. At least I hope not. My bearing driver kit does not have a piece that is this large. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna use some wood, nice even across, and we're gonna hammer it in, and then eventually it'll get to a point where it'll bottom out, and that'll be it. So you wanna make sure that it goes in as smooth and as straight as possible. Yeah, see, even after 2 whacks, I can tell that it's going in. It's not flush yet, but it's almost there. As soon as this thing bottoms out, we'll be good. I think we got like another 1/4 inch. I'm gonna cut one of my pieces of wood to this length, just so I can get like a more even amount of pressure on there, because it's going in, but it's going in, this side is in a little bit more than this side. So I'm gonna make something. Having the right tool for the right job is definitely easier, and I didn't realize that the kit that I had wasn't large enough to do this. So yeah, sometimes you gotta improvise just a little bit. Yay, my idea worked. All right, so I took a piece of wood, I just cut it, and I took my Dremel and kind of grinded it down so that it's nice and even and flush with the whole thing. I know it's hard to see, but this is good, and I can use this on the other one as well. So what we got to do is just get it to bottom out, and you'll know when it's bottomed out. Ooh, that was a good one. And that's it. It is definitely bottomed out now. Again, I know you can't see it on camera, but I can see the bottom lip where it's supposed to go. Right here where my finger is. Let's see if you guys can see it. Right here where my finger is. And I can see that it is all bottomed out. So yay, this bearing is in. A brand new snap ring that's gonna go in there. So put the snap ring first. Where are my new snap rings? Oh, here they go, right here. It's not 100% in there yet, but it's close. And there it goes. Now the bearing is properly seated. Hooray. All right, now I got my new seal. I'm going to take a little bit more grease. I'm using Bel-Ray waterproof grease, by the way. This stuff is legit. Just gonna put a nice little bead inside. You don't have to pack that area with grease. And as you can see, taking it apart, there was very little in there. And then go ahead and press this in. Seat it all the way down. Nice. Yep, and that's it. Bearing is nice and smooth, not crunchy. I was looking inside of that gap right there to make sure that it's even all the way around and pressed down and even, and it is. So we are done. We are done with this side. Yeah, so now that I've got everything good to go on this end, on the housing end, I'm just gonna make sure that this shaft gets cleaned up. I'm gonna apply some grease to it, just a light coating. We'll go ahead and slide it back into place. Oh, it slid right into place. Wonderful. I'll go ahead and put the seal in. Yay. So this side is done. Fantastic. All right, so now we got to do the second part. Get this bearing right here, the most inside one, out. So I believe that this is actually two pieces. Once we remove the sprocket, we should be able to separate it and then just access this bearing here. I'm gonna go ahead and start removing these nuts that hold the sprocket in place, and then when we reassemble them, we have new nuts because these are single use only, like almost everything else on this bike. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go do now. But we got the sprocket off. I'm gonna go put this aside. Now, I am under the assumption that these two pieces separate. I might be wrong. Well, I'm back. It took about 20 minutes or so of prying, but I finally got these two pieces separated. This Ooh, and it is out. And it smells terrible. Yeah, damn, that stinks. All right, well, let's move this bearing off to the side. Check out this inner area. Doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of wood debris in there from the hammering, but I'm gonna clean all that out and then we'll put the new bearing in. We need to put in the new bearing. So just like with the other piece that we did, we're gonna put a little bit of lube on it, kind of get it centered, and then we want to hammer it in until it is bottomed out. And you'll know when it's bottomed. And like I said before, if you happen to put these in the freezer, you know, I've been told that that's, you know, a trick that people do just to get the metal to contract. I did it with the front, but I can't say whether it helped or not. I know some people use heat and cold. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable putting heat on it unless it's like a hair dryer, but it seems to be working fine. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this piece hammered in. We'll use this one just to kind of get it started. Oh, look at that, going right in. Oh yeah, yeah, we're definitely good. Okay. Okay, and then we're gonna put another little layer of grease on this side. And then we'll put in the new snap ring. Cool, new snap ring is in, and now we can put on the new seal. Nice. Now, go ahead and get this back into place. All right, so the next thing that we gotta do is go ahead and put these guys back in place. Don't forget about the washer and the nut. For now, I'm just gonna go ahead and just kind of make them hand tight. As I make my way around. I tried my best to keep them in a spot where they could go right back where they came from, but just from banging around, it just didn't work out. So, all right, now that they're all hand tight, I gotta follow a sequence. So it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your typical star pattern. once they're snug, then I can go ahead and torque them down. Torque is 44 foot-pounds. Shit. So I ran into a small issue that's gonna delay me by at least 3 days. So when putting on the sprocket nuts, they're only supposed to be 44 pounds of torque. I set my torque wrench to 44 pounds, but unfortunately, this happened. Yeah, the manual says that you're supposed to replace the nuts, which I did, but it doesn't say anything about replacing the bolts. And initially I was like, oh great, you know, like I'm not gonna replace the bolts because these are about $35 a piece and there's 5 of them, which sucks. And these are maybe like $5 a piece. So I did replace the bolts, but 3 out of the 5 were torqued and the other 2 ended up like this. So I had to order 2 more of these. So once they get here, I'll be able to finish putting the sprocket back on and then replacing, you know, putting everything back together, which at this point should be pretty easy because everything else from this install went great. So I'll be back once I get the parts in hand and we'll continue from there. So be right back.